Your mind is the most powerful tool you will ever own. Every choice you make, every action you take, and every outcome you achieve begins here, in your thoughts. Yet, most people go through life letting their minds run on autopilot, allowing random fears, doubts, and distractions to dictate their decisions. Imagine the difference it would make if every single day you could take control of your thinking, direct it toward what matters, and refuse to let negativity or confusion dominate your mind. The results would be extraordinary. Discipline in thinking is not something that happens overnight. It's a skill, a habit, and a mindset that separates people who live reactive, unfilled lives from those who create the results they truly want. The truth is, no matter how talented or skilled you are, if your mind is scattered or undisciplined, your potential is wasted. But when your thinking is focused, deliberate, and intentional, you gain an advantage that no circumstance, competition, or obstacle can take away. This isn't about reading a book once, listening to a motivational speech, or hoping for a sudden breakthrough. It's about taking consistent, intentional steps every single day to master your thoughts. It's about learning how to filter out the noise, question negative ideas, focus on solutions, and align your mind with the person you want to become. By disciplining your thinking, you stop reacting to life and start creating it. You gain clarity in your decisions, confidence in your actions, and resilience in the face of challenges. You become the person who sees opportunity where others see problems, who takes control when others feel stuck, and who achieves more than they ever thought possible because their mind is trained to work for them, against them. Every great achievement, every meaningful relationship, every step towards success begins in the mind. The life you've been dreaming of is waiting on the other side of mental discipline. The habits you build, the focus you maintain, and the clarity you cultivate will determine how far you go. And today is the moment to start. The next time your mind drifts, the next time doubt creeps in, the next time life challenges you, you will have the tools to take control. You will know how to steer your thoughts, manage your focus, and direct your energy toward results that matter. This is not theory. This is the path to real change, and it begins the moment you commit to mastering your thinking. Number 1, control what enters your mind every day. Every life is shaped by what enters the mind. The way you think, the choices you make, and the direction you follow are all influenced by what you allow to occupy your thoughts. If you are serious about discipline, then the first step is learning to control what comes into your head every single day. Most people don't pay attention to this. They watch, listen, and consume anything that is in front of them, never realizing that every word, every picture, and every idea is leaving an imprint. That imprint builds into patterns, and those patterns eventually guide behavior. If you want to rise higher, you must decide what earns the right to enter your mind and what does not. Each morning, you are already opening the door to influences. It might be the news, the endless scroll of social media, or conversations with people who see nothing but problems. If you allow all of that in without a filter, you are giving away control over the quality of your thoughts. Discipline starts by creating boundaries. That means you choose what to expose yourself to, you choose the voices you hear, and you choose the ideas you feed on. The mind works like soil. If you plant weeds, weeds will grow. If you plant healthy seeds, then good fruit will follow. What you allow in is what eventually grows. There is so much noise around us that it is easy to forget how much power it has. Music, shows, movies, news, none of these are neutral. They carry values, moods, and attitudes that can quietly shape your own. Think about how quickly a single negative comment can affect your mood for hours. If one comment can do that, imagine what hours of careless input every day are doing to your outlook, your energy, and your confidence. It's no wonder so many people feel overwhelmed, anxious, or without direction, they have never disciplined what they are allowing into their thoughts. You have the power to reverse that. Discipline your thinking by setting rules for what you consume. Start with small choices. If you wake up and the first thing you see is negativity on your phone, switch it with something that builds you up. If you normally spend your evenings in front of empty entertainment, trade some of that time for material that teaches, inspires, or challenges you to grow. It's not about shutting yourself off from the world. It's about making sure that what you allow in is serving your growth and not draining it. When you take control of what enters your mind, you begin to notice subtle shifts. You will think clearer, you will feel stronger, and you will carry more certainty in your decisions. That's because your mind is no longer filled with random clutter. Instead, it is fueled by the kind of input that aligns with your goals and values. A disciplined mind is not crowded, it is focused. It knows where to put attention and where not to. There is another side to this discipline: people. The voices around you influence your mind just as much as books, shows, or news. Some people carry energy that uplifts while others bring constant negativity. If you spend all your time with people who complain, criticize, and never aim higher, it will be difficult to rise above that level of thinking. You don't have to cut people out of your life completely, but you must protect your mental space. Spend more time around those who challenge you to think better, work harder, and believe bigger. That influence can be the difference between staying stuck and moving forward. The truth is, you cannot always control what happens around you, but you can control what you allow inside you. Every day you are making choices. You are either feeding your mind with ideas that push you forward or allowing in distractions that keep you stuck. The discipline of the mind is not something that happens once, it happens daily. It is the constant act of choosing what earns your attention and what does not. Think about how careful people are with what they eat or drink when they care about their health. They read labels, they count calories, they avoid harmful foods. Why? Because they know what enters the body eventually shows up in their health. The same principle applies to the mind. What enters your thoughts will eventually show up in your actions, your habits, and your results. If you want a disciplined life, it must start with a disciplined mind. You owe it to yourself to guard that space. When you begin to practice this, it won't take long to see the change. Suddenly, you are calmer in the middle of challenges. You find solutions where others only see problems. You feel more confident making decisions because your mind is not pulled in 100 directions. That strength comes from the discipline of choosing what you feed your thoughts with. So take control today. Decide that your mind is too valuable to be filled with anything and everything. Treat it with respect. Protect it from unnecessary noise. Fill it with ideas that give you energy, direction, and strength. Over time, this discipline will become natural, and you will carry a clarity that few people ever experience. And that clarity will not only shape how you think, but it will shape the life you build. Number 2, question negative thoughts before believing them. Most people live with thoughts they never question. They hear a voice in their head that says, "You're not good enough," or "This will never work," and they accept it as the truth. But the reality is, not every thought you think deserves your trust. Discipline of the mind begins when you stop automatically believing every negative idea that comes into your head. If you don't learn how to challenge those thoughts, they will run your life without you even realizing it. When a negative thought shows up, it doesn't knock politely on the door of your mind. It barges in. It tells you that you can't succeed, that people don't respect you, that you should give up, or that your effort won't make a difference. If you allow it to sit there unchallenged, it starts to shape your confidence, your choices, and your behavior. You begin to act as if those thoughts are facts, when in reality, they may be nothing more than fear, insecurity, or an old memory you never dealt with. Discipline requires that you stop and test those thoughts. Ask yourself, is this thought true? Is it based on facts, or is it just an assumption I've carried from the past? Will believing this thought help me grow, or will it keep me small? Those questions are not complicated, but they can save you from falling into mental traps. You will start to notice that many of your negative thoughts have no foundation. They are often exaggerated, distorted, or fueled by emotion rather than reality. Think about how many people never pursue opportunities because they believed the first negative thought that appeared. I'm not ready. I don't have the talent. I'll embarrass myself. Nobody will support me. They never ask, what if I'm wrong? What if I am capable? What if this could work? That failure to challenge their own mind costs them years of progress. They lose before they even start, not because they weren't capable, but because they believed the wrong thought. You must build the discipline to interrupt that cycle. When you feel doubt creeping in, pause and examine it. Replace "I can't" with "what can I do?" Replace "it's impossible" with "how could it be possible?" That shift in questioning forces your brain to look for solutions instead of staying stuck in fear. The negative thought may still try to show up, but now you have trained yourself not to accept it blindly. You treat it as something to test, not as the final word. This practice strengthens your mind in the same way exercise strengthens your body. Every time you push back against a negative thought, you gain a little more control. Over time, you develop confidence that your thinking belongs to you, not to the random doubts that try to invade it. You begin to carry yourself differently because you know that your decisions are guided by choice, not by lies. That kind of control brings a sense of peace and focus that people around you will notice. Another important part of questioning negative thoughts is identifying where they come from. Some thoughts are not even yours. They may be things you heard from your parents, your teachers, or people who doubted you years ago. They planted those words in your head, and you never stopped to ask if they were true. The discipline of questioning forces you to separate your voice from theirs. You stop carrying the weight of opinions that don't belong to you. You free yourself to think independently with clarity and strength. Sometimes the thoughts are fueled by fear of failure. That is natural. Everyone feels that fear at times. But fear doesn't have to control you if you recognize it for what it is, a signal, not a sentence. When fear says, you can't handle this, you can respond, I can prepare, I can learn, I can grow. By doing this, you are training your brain to push past automatic reactions and step into conscious, deliberate thinking. That is discipline at its highest level. This habit also helps when life throws setbacks at you. When things don't go as planned, the first thought might be, see, I told you I would fail. But if you are disciplined, you will stop and ask, is this really failure or is this a lesson? What can I do differently next time? That one shift in perspective keeps you moving forward while others give up. It allows you to turn what looks like a roadblock into an opportunity to adjust and grow. The discipline of questioning your thoughts gives you freedom. Without it, you are a prisoner of your own mind. With it, you are the master of your decisions. You don't waste energy on lies. You don't surrender to self-doubt. You choose the thoughts that deserve your attention, and you dismiss the ones that don't. That control is one of the most powerful tools you can ever develop. Every day, you will face a battle between positive and negative thoughts. You can't stop negative ones from showing up, but you can stop them from taking root. The discipline is not about avoiding every negative feeling. It's about refusing to give them power over your life. If you build this practice daily, you will notice yourself becoming calmer, more confident, and more focused. Instead of being pulled down by doubt, you rise above it. Instead of being trapped by fear, You take action. That is the kind of discipline that changes your future. When you stop blindly believing every negative thought, you open the door to growth, opportunity, and strength. You realize that your mind is not against you. It just needs training. And once it's trained, there is no limit to what you can achieve. Number 3, train your mind to focus on solutions, not problem. Problems are everywhere. They come in the form of bills that need paying, relationships that need mending, business that face obstacles, health challenges, or setbacks you never saw coming. There's no escaping them, no matter how smart you are or how much success you've had. The truth is, life will always present you with challenges. The real question is not whether you'll face problems, but how you'll respond when you do. And this is where the difference between ordinary and extraordinary shows up. Ordinary minds fixate on problems, while extraordinary minds train themselves to focus on solutions. When you train your mind to see solutions, you immediately place yourself in a position of power. A problem-focused mind is reactive. It gets stuck, it circles around the same complaint, it replays the same frustration, and it keeps pointing out what's wrong. But a solution-focused mind is proactive. It asks, what can be done? What's the next step? Where's the opportunity hidden in this? That kind of thinking opens doors that most people never even notice. Think about how many people spend years stuck in the same place, not because their problems are too big, but because their focus is too small. They give all their attention to what went wrong. They keep repeating the story of who hurt them, who failed them, what didn't work. That story becomes their identity, and they live inside it. But the moment you start shifting your focus towards solutions, the story changes. Suddenly, instead of being the victim of circumstances, you become the author of your response. And the author always has more power than the victim. This doesn't mean you ignore problems. No, ignoring them doesn't make them go away. But it means you don't stay stuck staring at the problem as if that's going to solve it. Imagine if a doctor only stared at the symptoms of a patient without looking for treatment. The patient would never get better. The same is true in life. If all you do is stare at what's wrong, you'll never move toward what's right. Training your mind takes practice. The natural response when something goes wrong is to complain, blame, or freeze. That's human, but just because it's natural doesn't mean it's useful. Growth means replacing what's natural with what's effective. So when a problem shows up, pause and catch yourself. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Shift it to, what can I do about this? What's within my control? What's the smallest step forward I can take? That one mental adjustment separates the ones who stay stuck from the ones who advance. I remember talking with a young entrepreneur once who told me all the reasons his business couldn't grow. He listed the economy, competition, lack of funding, lack of connections, you name it. He had it on the list. And I stopped him and said, "You've given me 10 reasons why it won't work. Can you give me 3 ways it could work?" He sat there for a moment in silence, and then he began to think differently. His mind had been stuck in problem mode, and just by shifting the question, his brain began producing answers. That's the power of solution-focused thinking. It wakes up creativity, resourcefulness, and possibility. And this doesn't only apply to business, it applies to every area of life. Relationships fall apart because people dwell on what's wrong with each other instead of looking for how to make things right. Health deteriorates because people focus on the pain rather than what they can do to heal. Even finances spiral downward because people spend more time complaining about their lack of money than learning how to manage and multiply what they already have. In every case, the difference is not the size of the problem, but the focus of the mind. Training your mind to focus on solutions also builds resilience. If you only see problems, every setback feels permanent. It feels like the end of the road. But when your mind is trained for solutions, setbacks become temporary detours. You start to believe there's always a way forward, even if it's small, even if it's hard. And that belief alone gives you strength to keep moving. It's not blind optimism. It's trained focus. It's saying, yes, this is hard. Yes, this is real. But somewhere in this difficulty, there is a step I can take, and I'm going to find it. You also attract different people into your life when you focus on solutions. Problem-oriented people drain those around them. They bring down the energy of every room they enter, but solution-oriented people are magnetic. They inspire trust. People want to work with them, invest in them, and follow them because they carry hope and direction. And in life, you don't get rewarded for pointing out problems. You get rewarded for bringing answers. Now, this shift won't happen overnight. You don't rewire your thinking in a day. But every problem you face is a chance to practice. Every time you're tempted to complain, pause and reframe. Ask yourself, am I going to feed the problem with more attention, or am I going to feed the solution with my energy? Every time you feel stuck, take the smallest step forward instead of staying frozen. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes until eventually your mind is trained to look forward instead of backward, to see possibility instead of limitation. And here's the best part. When you live this way, life starts to feel different. Problems don't scare you as much because you trust yourself to find a way through. Setbacks don't defeat you because you know they carry lessons that can move you forward. Challenges don't overwhelm you because you see them as invitations to grow. That's the gift of training your mind for solutions. It doesn't remove the storms, but it equips you with the ability to navigate them. So the next time a problem shows up in your life, and it will, remember, your response is more important than the problem itself. You can either stare at the wall or you can look for the door. One keeps you trapped, the other sets you free, and the choice is always in your hands. Number 3, direct your thoughts toward long-term goals. Most people live their days caught up in short-term thinking. They wake up and think about what needs to be done today, what bills are due this week, what small problems they're facing in the moment. Their entire life gets reduced to the urgency of now, and because of that, they never build anything lasting. But if you want to create a future that is stable, meaningful, and abundant, you have to train your mind to look beyond today's noise and focus on where you want to be years from now. Directing your thoughts toward long-term goals changes the way you see everything in front of you. The truth is, without a long-term vision, it's easy to waste years. You can be busy every day, working hard, putting in hours, yet arrive 10 years later, realizing you've gone nowhere important. Activity by itself does not equal progress. The direction of your thinking matters more than the intensity of your effort. If you don't know where you want to end up, the days will control you instead of you controlling the days. That's why long-term goals are so powerful. They act as a compass. They remind you of the bigger picture so that even when today feels messy, you know why you're doing it. Think about the power of a farmer. He doesn't just wake up and wonder what he feels like doing. He plants seeds because he's thinking months ahead about the harvest. He's focused on what the work today will mean later. And in the same way, when you direct your thoughts toward long-term goals, every action today becomes an investment in your future. The late nights, the extra study, the careful choices, they all start to carry meaning because you know they're not wasted. They're connected to something larger than the moment. Short-term thinking is fueled by comfort. It says, what feels good right now? Long-term thinking is fueled by vision. It asks, what outcome do I want years from now? And that shift alone transforms the way you use your time, your energy, and your resources. People who focus only on the short term often trade away their future for temporary relief. They overspend, they overindulge, they avoid hard things. People who focus on the long term make different choices. They save when others spend. They study when others waste time. They build habits when others chase distractions. And over time, those choices separate them from the crowd. It's not always easy to keep your thoughts on long-term goals because the present always shouts louder than the future. The present has bills, pain, pressure, noise. The future is quiet. It doesn't demand your attention. That's why most people ignore it until it's too late. Training your mind to prioritize the future means deliberately reminding yourself every day of where you want to go. Write it down, think about it, rehearse it, build your decisions around it. Because if you don't keep your future in mind, the present will swallow you whole. Another important part of directing your thoughts toward long-term goals is patience. When your focus is short-term, you're always looking for instant results. You get discouraged when progress is slow, and you quit before you ever see growth. But long-term thinkers know that meaningful change takes time. They're willing to work through the slow seasons, knowing that results compound. Every bit of effort stacks up, even when it doesn't show immediately. That kind of patience protects you from the frustration that destroys most people's consistency. Directing your thoughts toward long-term goals also gives you strength during hardship. When pain comes, it's easy to want to escape it immediately. But you're scrunners. If your mind is anchored to the bigger vision, you can endure temporary discomfort because you know it serves a purpose. You know, the struggle is not forever. It's a step toward the future you've chosen. That perspective makes you resilient. It keeps you moving even when the path isn't easy. It also changes the way you view opportunities. Short-term thinkers chase quick wins. They want whatever looks shiny right now. But long-term thinkers evaluate whether an opportunity will still matter years down the road. If it doesn't, they let it go. That discipline keeps them from wasting time on distractions disguised as opportunities. And over the years, this discipline builds a life that is both stable and rich with meaning. Directing your thoughts toward long-term goals also sharpens your decision-making. Every choice becomes a test. Does this align with where I want to be 5 or 10 years from now? Or does it pull me away from it? That kind of clarity prevents you from drifting. It creates alignment between your actions and your vision. And alignment is powerful. It multiplies your results because every step moves you in the same direction. Another thing you'll notice is how much peace long-term thinking brings. People who only focus on the short term live in constant stress. They feel like life is always an emergency. But when your mind is fixed on long-term goals, you stop panicking over every small inconvenience. You don't need everything to be perfect right now because you know it's a process. You know, setbacks are just part of the journey, not the end of it. That calmness gives you an advantage because it allows you to keep moving without burning out. The most important benefit of long-term thinking is that it builds legacy. Short-term wins fade quickly, but long-term goals, when pursued with discipline, create a life that outlasts you. They shape your family, your work, your character, and your contribution to the world. And at the end of life, that's what will matter most. Not what felt good in the moment, but what you built that lasted. So every day remind yourself, direct your thoughts toward where you want to be, not just where you are. Make decisions today that your future self will thank you for. Stay patient, stay steady, and keep your mind fixed on the vision ahead. Because while others get lost in the noise of the present, you'll be building something far greater, the kind of future most only dream about but never achieve. Number one, use daily reading to shape strong thinking. Every day, your mind is being shaped by what you feed it. Just like your body depends on the food you eat, your mind depends on the ideas, the words and the information you allow inside. If you fill it with junk, you'll end up with weak thinking. But if you nourish it with powerful material, your thinking becomes sharp, strong, and disciplined. Daily reading is one of the simplest but most effective ways to train your mind. And yet, so many people overlook it because it feels small. They underestimate what 10 or 20 minutes of reading every single day can do for their life over time. When you make reading a habit, you're not just consuming words on a page, you're absorbing wisdom. You're stepping into the experiences of others, learning from their mistakes, adopting their strategies, and expanding your perspective without having to live through every struggle yourself. That is one of the greatest advantages you can give yourself, to learn in minutes what took someone else years to discover. Every page you read saves you time, saves you pain, and saves you from repeating unnecessary mistakes. The value of daily reading also comes from consistency. You don't need to spend hours each day buried in books. Even a small amount of time, done daily, builds momentum. Imagine what happens if you read 15 minutes every morning for a year. That's not overwhelming. But over 12 months, it adds up to hundreds of pages, maybe several books, all feeding your mind with knowledge and principles that slowly transform the way you think and act. And it doesn't stop there. Year after year, the compounding effect of that habit makes you wiser, sharper, and more capable than the average person who never bothered to read. Daily reading also strengthens. In a world filled with distractions, television, social media, endless entertainment, choosing to pick up a book and focus your attention is training for the mind. It teaches you how to concentrate, how to slow down, and how to process information deeply instead of just skimming through life. That skill carries over into every area of your life. You become more focused at work, more present with your family, more thoughtful in your decisions, because your mind is trained to pay attention instead of wandering. And don't make the mistake of thinking reading is only for students or for people in certain professions. Reading is for anyone who wants to rise above average. Whether it's personal development, finance, history, biographies, or spiritual material, every good book expands your capacity. It stretches your imagination, introduces you to new ideas, and helps you see the world in ways you never considered. Without that constant exposure, your thinking gets stale. You end up recycling the same thoughts over and over again, and your growth stalls. Reading also builds confidence. When you have knowledge stored up, you carry yourself differently. You speak with more certainty. You make decisions with more clarity. You walk into a room and you know you have something to offer because you've invested in your own mind. People notice that. They're drawn to it. Confidence rooted in preparation is unshakable, and reading daily gives you that edge. Another reason reading is so important is because it challenges your thinking. If all you ever listen to is your own voice and the voices of the people around you, your perspective will always be limited. But when you open a book, you're exposed to new viewpoints, sometimes even uncomfortable ones. That discomfort forces you to think, to question, to examine your beliefs. And that process makes your thinking stronger. Weak thinkers avoid anything. Strong thinkers invite it because they know growth is found in stretching beyond what's familiar. Daily reading also keeps you grounded. In the chaos of life, it's easy to lose focus, to get caught up in stress, to feel overwhelmed. Taking time each day to sit with a book creates a pause. It reminds you of principles that matter. It realigns you with your values and your vision. That daily reset can be the difference between drifting aimlessly and staying anchored to your purpose. It also connects you with great minds across time. Some of the wisest people who ever lived are no longer here, but their words remain. When you read their work, it's like having a conversation with them. You're guided by their experiences, warned by their failures, inspired by their victories. That connection gives you access to mentorship you might never have in person. And when you stack those voices over years of reading, you're not walking through life alone. You're walking with an army of thinkers, leaders, and teachers who have poured into you. Now, some people say they don't have time to read. But the truth is, it's not about time, it's about priorities. If you can scroll through your phone for half an hour, you can read a book for 15 minutes. If you can watch an episode of a show, you can choose to read instead. It's about deciding that your mind is worth feeding. Once you shift your attitude, you'll find the time, and soon it won't feel like a chore. It will feel like fuel. So start small. Pick up one good book and commit to a few pages a day. Build the habit slowly, but don't break it. Over time, that daily decision will build a reservoir of strength inside you. Your thinking will become more disciplined, your perspective more expansive, and your decisions more effective. And when people wonder how you became so clear, so confident, so wise, you'll know the truth. It wasn't luck, it wasn't talent. It was the quiet daily habit of feeding your mind with strong material, because in the end, your life will always move in the direction of your strongest thoughts. And strong thoughts are not built by accident. They're built through the discipline of what you choose to read day after day, year after year. Here, number key, replace doubt with affirmation and belief. Doubt is one of the most dangerous companions you can keep. It doesn't slam the door on your dreams. It quietly shuts the windows one by one until there's no light left in the room. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It says maybe you can't do it, maybe you're not qualified, maybe you'll fail like last time. And if you're not careful, you start agreeing with it. You start repeating those doubts in your own head until they become your reality. But let me tell you something, doubt is not the truth. Doubt is not evidence. Doubt is simply a seed planted by fear. And just like any seed, it only grows if you water it. The tragedy is, most people don't even realize they're watering their doubts every single day. They rehearse their failures. They remember their mistakes. They keep talking about what went wrong. And every time they do, they give doubt more power, more roots, more strength. But here's the good news. Just as you can feed doubt, you can also starve it. You can replace it, you can uproot it by planting something stronger. And that something is affirmation and belief. Belief is the fuel that gets you moving when the road is uphill. Belief is the spark that ignites your courage. Belief is what makes you take the first step, even if you can't see the whole staircase. Without belief, your talent is wasted. Without belief, your knowledge sits unused. Without belief, your opportunities slip right through your fingers. Belief is the foundation on which everything else is built. Now, how do you build belief? You build it by feeding your mind with affirmations. And I'm not talking about mindless, empty words that you recite without conviction. I'm talking about intentional, powerful affirmations that remind you of your capacity to grow, to learn, to adapt, and to succeed. For example, instead of saying, "I can't do this," you affirm, "I may not know everything yet, but I can learn." Instead of saying, "I always fail," you affirm, "Every failure is feedback. I'm smarter and stronger today than I was yesterday." Instead of saying, "I'm not enough," you affirm, "I was created with purpose. I have the discipline and persistence to achieve great things." The mind is like a sponge. Whatever you soak it in, it will absorb. If you soak it in negativity, it will squeeze out fear. If you soak it in doubt, it will squeeze out hesitation. But if you soak it in affirmations of belief, it will squeeze out courage and determination. That's why daily affirmations matter. You don't win against doubt once, you win against it every day by feeding your belief more than you feed your fear. Let me ask you, do you know why so many people quit before they succeed? It's not because they lack intelligence. It's not because they lack opportunity. It's because they let doubt convince them that success was never possible for them. And once they believe that lie, they stop trying. But successful people, the ones you admire, they're not free of doubt either. They feel it just like everyone else. The difference is they don't let doubt run their lives. They don't let doubt speak louder than their affirmations. They talk back to their fear. They remind themselves, yes, this is difficult, but I've done difficult things before. They remind themselves, yes, the road is long, but every step counts. They remind themselves, yes, there are obstacles, but there are also opportunities. That's how they keep going when others stop. You see, doubt will always be present, but belief must always be stronger. It's like a scale. On one side is doubt, on the other side is belief. Whichever side you feed more will tip the balance. If you keep affirming weakness, the scale tips toward doubt. If you keep affirming strength, the scale tips toward belief. The choice is yours every single day. Now let's talk about how affirmations actually change your life in practice. When you affirm something long enough, it changes the way you think. When you think differently, it changes the way you feel. When you feel differently, it changes the way you act. And when you act differently, it changes your results. This is not magic, it's the natural law of the mind. Input determines output. What you put in your mind eventually shows up in your life. If you affirm laziness, excuses, and weakness, you'll act like someone who has no power. But if you affirm discipline, resilience, and belief, you'll act like someone who knows their life has meaning. That's why you must be intentional about your inner dialogue. What you say to yourself is more powerful than what anyone else says about you. And let me give you a warning. If you don't affirm your own belief, someone else will affirm your doubt. The world is full of critics, doubters, and naysayers who will be quick to tell you what you can't do. If your own belief isn't strong enough, you'll borrow theirs. And that's a dangerous place to be. But when you've trained yourself with affirmations, when you've built the muscle of belief, their words bounce off you. You hear them, but you don't absorb them. You simply say to yourself, I choose to believe in my vision, not their limitation. Here's a practical exercise every morning before you let the world speak to you. Speak to yourself. Take 5 minutes to affirm what you're building, who you're becoming, and why it matters. So, say it out loud, write it down, repeat it until it becomes real. If you start your day feeding belief, you'll walk into the world armored against doubt. And when doubt shows up, and it will, you won't panic. You'll say, I've prepared for this. I've already chosen belief. I've already written the script for today. And that's how you win. So remember this, doubt destroys more dreams than failure ever will. Failure can teach you, but doubt stops you from even trying. Don't let that be your story. Replace doubt with affirmation. Believe that you can learn. Believe that you can improve. Believe that you can build a life that matters. Because at the end of the day, belief is not just about what you think. It's about what you choose. You can choose to believe in your limitations, or you can choose to believe in your possibilities. The future belongs to those who choose belief. Number 7, practice gratitude to shift your mental state. Gratitude has the power to change everything about the way you think and the way you live. Most people wake up every day and the first thing they do is complain. They complain about the alarm clock, about their job, about their responsibilities, about what they don't have. And when you begin the day with complaints, you set your mind into a state of scarcity and frustration. You're telling your brain to focus on lack instead of abundance. You're telling your emotions to prepare for disappointment instead of opportunity. But when you wake up and choose gratitude, you flip the switch. You tell your mind to see the blessings first, and that simple act shifts your entire emotional state. You think about this, when you practice gratitude, you are training your brain to notice what is right, not just what is wrong. And that changes the lens through which you see the world. Gratitude doesn't erase your challenges, but it makes you bigger than them. It doesn't remove your struggles, but it gives you the strength to handle them. It's not denial, it's perspective. Gratitude allows you to see that even in hard times, there are things to be thankful for. And that awareness changes how you carry yourself. If you only ever focus on what's missing, you'll always feel like you're not enough. You'll live in a state of comparison, constantly measuring yourself against someone else's highlight reel. That's why so many people today feel unhappy, even though they have more comfort, technology, and opportunity than any generation before them. It's not a lack of resources, it's a lack of gratitude. The richest person in the world can feel poor if all they think about is what they don't yet have. But a person with very little can feel abundant if they focus on what they do have. Gratitude is not about possessions, it's about perspective. When you stop and think about it, there are countless things to be grateful for that most people take for granted. The fact that you woke up this morning means you've been given another chance. The fact that you can hear these words means you have the gift of hearing. The fact that you have food, shelter, or even the ability to dream means you are already ahead of so many who don't. Gratitude isn't waiting for everything to be perfect. It's noticing the value of what's already present. Now, why does gratitude shift your mental state so powerfully? Because it interrupts negative thinking patterns. If you're stressed, worried, or angry, it's nearly impossible to stay in that state while you're actively listing things you're thankful for. Gratitude and bitterness can't live in the same space. You can't be genuinely thankful and resentful at the same time. The moment you choose gratitude, you give your mind permission to calm down, to breathe, and to see the bigger picture. Here's the secret. Gratitude is not a feeling you wait for, it's a discipline you practice. Too many people think they should only feel grateful when something big happens, when they get a promotion, when they buy a new house, when life finally works out the way they want. But gratitude doesn't wait for milestones. It shows up in the small things every day. And when you practice it daily, your brain gets trained to notice good things automatically. It becomes a habit, and that habit reshapes your attitude. Imagine a person who complains about traffic every morning. They arrive at work already frustrated, drained, and irritable. Now imagine another person in the same traffic, but instead of complaining, they use the time to listen to an audiobook, call a loved one, or reflect on their blessings. Same situation, different mindset, different results. The traffic didn't change, but gratitude made one person feel empowered while the other stayed bitter. That's the difference a grateful mind can make. Gratitude also strengthens your relationships. When you express thankfulness to people in your life, it deepens the connection. People naturally feel drawn to those who appreciate them. A simple thank you can inspire loyalty, trust, and affection. But when you take people for granted, when you only notice what they don't do, you damage the bond. Gratitude doesn't just change how you think. It changes how you treat others, and that creates an atmosphere of positivity around you. Now think about the long-term effect of practicing gratitude. Over time, you become more optimistic, more resilient, and more hopeful. When life throws difficulties your way, gratitude gives you a cushion. Instead of falling into despair, you find strength in remembering what's still good, what's still working, what's still worth fighting for. That mindset can mean the difference between giving up and pushing through. So how do you put this into practice? Start small. At the beginning or end of each day, write down 3 things you're grateful for. It doesn't need to be extraordinary. It can be as simple as having a meal, getting a smile from a stranger, or having the health to take a walk. Over time, this habit rewires your mind. you'll find yourself noticing blessings you used to overlook. The more you acknowledge them, the more you'll see them. And the more you see them, the stronger your mental state becomes. Gratitude also works best when it's spoken, not just thought. Speak it out loud. Tell people you're thankful for them. Thank your parents, your friends, your mentors, even the cashier at the grocery store. Expressing gratitude doesn't just help you, it lifts others too. It spreads an energy that comes back multiplied. Gratitude is contagious, and when you share it, you create an environment where positive thinking becomes natural. Remember this, a mind filled with gratitude is a mind that is hard to break. Problems don't overwhelm you as easily. Criticism doesn't crush you as quickly. Fear doesn't grip you as tightly. Gratitude gives you a mental shield, a strength that makes you steady in a shaky world. So if you want to shift your mental state, if you want to rise above stress, negativity, and fear, practice gratitude every single day. Not once in a while, not only when life is good, every day. Because gratitude isn't something you wait for, it's something you decide. The moment you choose gratitude, you give your life more meaning, your mind more peace, and your future more promise. Number 8, limit time with people who drain your thinking. There is a certain kind of weight that doesn't sit on your shoulders, but sits in your mind. You feel it after you spend time with certain people. You walk away not more alive, not more hopeful, but drained. These are the people who take more energy than they give. They plant seeds of doubt, complain about everything, and feed your mind with worry instead of vision. If you are serious about disciplining your thinking, you have to protect yourself from this influence, because no matter how strong you believe you are, the environment you place yourself in has a way of shaping the thoughts you carry. Think about how conversations shape your state of mind. When you sit with people who only talk about problems, gossip, or blame, you leave the room carrying their mindset. You might have entered with energy, but you exit with heaviness. You might have been focused, but now you're distracted. Their words seep into your mind and replay long after the conversation is over. And the dangerous thing is, this happens silently. You don't even realize how much of your mental space is being stolen until you notice your attitude changing. That is why it's not just important to choose what you feed your body, but also what you feed your mind. And people are part of that diet. If you want your mind to stay sharp, you have to be intentional about who gets your time. So surround yourself with those who lift you up, who challenge you to grow, who remind you of possibility instead of limitation. These are the people who spark new ideas, who push you to aim higher, who celebrate your progress instead of resenting it. They don't need to be perfect, but they carry an energy that adds instead of subtracts. You always know when you've met someone like that because you leave the interaction feeling more alive, more ready, more calm. That's the kind of environment that strengthens disciplined thinking. The truth is, if you spend too much time with those who drain your thinking, it doesn't matter how many books you read or how much personal development you pursue, you'll constantly be undoing your own progress. It's like pouring clean water into a dirty cup. No matter how much you pour, the water keeps getting clouded. Protecting your mind means reducing the amount of poison that enters in the first place. Sometimes that means making hard decisions about distance. Sometimes it means saying no to invitations, ending certain conversations quickly, or limiting the amount of emotional space you allow people to occupy. This doesn't mean you become cold or unkind. It doesn't mean you cut everyone out who is struggling. It means you guard your focus. There's a difference between helping someone and allowing yourself to be consumed by their negativity. When someone is always negative, always critical, always tearing down instead of building up, you have to recognize the cost of staying in that space too long. You can offer kindness, but you can also choose to step back, for the sake of your own mental health, consider the people who inspire you. Think about how you feel after listening to someone who is excited about their goals, who is grateful for life, who is determined to push forward despite obstacles. Just being in their presence awakens something inside of you. It sparks ambition, it stirs creativity, it makes you believe more is possible. That's no accident. Energy is transferable, and disciplined thinking requires that you choose carefully what kind of energy you expose yourself to daily. You may have noticed how easy it is to adopt the habits of those closest to you. If they complain, you'll find yourself complaining more. If they're careless with their time, you start to loosen your own standards. If they're critical and bitter, you may slowly develop the same tone. But if they're focused, optimistic, and determined, you'll naturally begin to rise to their level. This is why your circle is not just about friendship, it's about shaping the very quality of your thinking. One of the greatest acts of self-discipline is not only controlling your own mind, but also controlling the influences around it. The truth is, time is limited. Every hour you give to someone is an hour you can't take back. If those hours are constantly filled with negativity, you're sacrificing the strength of your own thinking. But when you invest that time with people who fuel your vision, who remind you of your values, who believe in growth, you multiply your own potential. Over time, limiting your exposure to draining people doesn't just protect your mind, it transforms it. You become lighter, more focused, more able to see opportunities instead of being weighed down by constant complaints. You think more clearly because you're not carrying someone else's bitterness on top of your own responsibilities. You make decisions faster because you're not second-guessing yourself through the echo of other people's doubts. Your mind becomes a place of order, clarity, and strength, and that is what disciplined thinking requires. So the real choice is this: will you continue to give your energy away to people who take without giving, or will you discipline your environment to match the life you want to build? Because disciplined thinking isn't just about the thoughts you create inside your head, it's also about the voices you allow around you. And when you choose to limit the people who drain your thinking, you give yourself the freedom to focus on what truly matters. Number 9, reflect and journal to organize your mind. Reflection is one of the most powerful tools for disciplining your thinking, yet it's often overlooked because it doesn't feel urgent. We live in a world that pulls us in 100 directions at once, with endless tasks, distractions, and information constantly competing for attention. In that kind of environment, the mind can easily become cluttered, thoughts swirl around, worries pile up, and priorities get lost in the noise. This is why reflection and journaling matter so deeply. They give you the chance to pause, sort through the chaos, and put your thoughts in order. When you take time to reflect, you create space for your mind to breathe. You're no longer reacting to everything around you. Instead, you're stepping back and observing. Think of how different your decisions feel when you've had a moment to evaluate instead of rushing into action. Reflection slows things down in the best way. It gives you clarity on what truly happened, what you felt about it, and how you want to move forward. Without that pause, you risk living life on autopilot, repeating mistakes, and carrying the same stress day after day. Journaling takes reflection even further by making it tangible. Writing down your thoughts pulls them out of the endless cycle in your head and places them where you can see them. Once you write something down, it loses some of its power to control you. A fear looks smaller on paper than it did when it was just echoing in your mind. An idea looks more achievable once you break it into steps. Even frustrations become more manageable when you give them structure with words. It's not magic. It's simply the discipline of organizing your inner world. Consider how often people carry the same worries day after day without doing anything about them. They think about the same problems, repeat the same conversations in their heads, and feel the same stress, but because they never capture those thoughts, nothing changes. Journaling breaks that cycle. By writing it down, you turn vague feelings into something specific, and when it's specific, you can finally do something about it. That's the discipline of thought in action, turning emotions and confusion into clarity and direction. Reflection also sharpens self-awareness, and self-awareness is at the heart of disciplined thinking. You start to notice patterns in your behavior. You recognize what triggers negative thoughts, what lifts your mood, what habits waste your time, and what practices bring you closer to your goals. When you see these patterns clearly, you gain the power to change them. With reflection, you may drift through weeks or even years without realizing you. By sabotaging your own progress with the same repeated choices. Another benefit of journaling is that it creates a record of your growth. When you look back at what you wrote weeks or months ago, you can see how far you've come. You'll notice problems that once felt overwhelming, but now seem small. You'll see progress in your goals that you might not have recognized in the moment. This kind of perspective fuels motivation. It reminds you that growth is happening, even when daily life feels slow. It strengthens your belief that the discipline of thought leads to real, measurable change. The act of journaling also trains your mind to slow down and think deliberately. In a fast-moving world, this is a rare skill. Writing forces you to choose words carefully, to express what you actually mean, and to clarify your thoughts. It's impossible to write 5 pages of nothing without realizing at some point that you're not saying anything. That awareness alone makes you sharper. Over time, this practice makes your everyday thinking clearer, more structured, and more focused. Reflection doesn't have to be. It could be a few quiet minutes at the end of the day, asking yourself simple questions. What did I learn today? What challenged me? What am I grateful for? What could I do better tomorrow? These aren't just questions. They're tools to organize your mind. They strip away the noise of the day and leave you with insight. Journaling these answers multiplies their effect because you're not only thinking them, but also capturing them. That written record keeps you accountable and gives you something to return to later. Okay. There's also a mental release that comes with journaling. Some people carry unspoken thoughts for years. Regrets, disappointments, anger, or confusion sit heavy inside because they've never been expressed. Journaling offers a private, safe place to let those thoughts out. Once they're on paper, you don't have to hold them so tightly anymore. This frees up space in your mind for new ideas, for problem solving, for creativity, and for focus. It's like clearing clutter out of a room so you can actually move around in it again. When you practice reflection and journaling consistently, you stop being a prisoner of your thoughts and start being their master. You decide what deserves your focus, what lessons you will carry forward, and what burdens you will set down. You no longer live in reaction to every feeling or distraction. You live with intention. That is what disciplined thinking looks like in daily life. It's not just about controlling what comes into your mind, but also about organizing what's already there. What's already there. And when you take that responsibility seriously, your decisions improve, your confidence grows, and your path forward becomes clearer every day. Number 10, consistently choose thoughts that build, not break. Gratitude also creates a resilience that few other attitudes can provide. When you consistently practice gratitude, you build a kind of mental shield against negativity and despair. Think about it. When a challenge comes your way, instead of spiraling into panic or discouragement, gratitude allows you to say, "This is hard, but I'm thankful for the chance to learn. I'm thankful for the strength I do have. I'm thankful that I'm still moving forward." That doesn't mean you ignore the hardship, but it shifts how you carry it. Gratitude gives you strength, while negativity drains it. Gratitude says, I still have something left, while negativity says, I've lost everything. So, which one do you think will carry you further in life? Gratitude also directly affects your relationships, and relationships are at the core of success. People are drawn to those who radiate appreciation. Nobody enjoys being around someone who constantly complains or finds fault. But when you are genuinely thankful for people, for their time, for their contribution, for their presence, they feel it. And people who feel appreciated are far more likely to help you, support you, and even open doors for you. Gratitude isn't just a mindset. It's a magnet. It attracts opportunities, connections, and goodwill that negativity could never create. Here's another secret. Gratitude doesn't just make you feel better, it makes you act better. When you're thankful for what you have, you take care of it. If you're grateful for your health, you'll eat better, exercise, and take responsibility for your body. If you're grateful for your job or your business, you'll work harder, smarter, and with more passion. If you're grateful for your relationships, you'll treat people with kindness and respect. Gratitude turns responsibility into joy, and joy fuels consistent effort. You don't have to wait for big things to practice gratitude. Start with the small ones. Be grateful for the air you breathe, for the fact that you woke up today, for the roof over your head, for the food on your table, for the people who support you, for the chance to learn and grow. Gratitude is not about ignoring what you don't have. It's about acknowledging the richness of what you do have, and using that to fuel your progress toward even greater things. But here's the most powerful part. Gratitude has the ability to transform your future. When you approach life with a grateful heart, you stop fixating on what's missing and start focusing on what's possible. Gratitude keeps you looking forward, keeps you energized, and keeps your perspective clear. And when your mind is clear, your decisions improve. When your decisions improve, your results improve. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it's a strategy. So train your mind every day. Take a few minutes each morning or evening to reflect on what you're grateful for. Write it down, speak it out loud, or just sit quietly and let it sink in. The more you practice gratitude, the more natural it becomes. And soon you'll notice something amazing. Your outlook shifts, your energy grows, and your life starts aligning with the very things you've been thankful for all along. That's not luck. That's the power of gratitude reshaping your mind, your actions, and your destiny. Number 11, feed your mind with positive input daily. Feed your mind with positive input daily. That may sound simple, but it's one of the most powerful disciplines you'll ever practice. Your mind is like a garden, and every day something is being planted. The question is, what kind of seeds are you allowing to grow there? If you don't take control, weeds will grow automatically. Negative news, toxic conversations, self-doubt, gossip, fear, those things creep in on their own. But positive input, that doesn't happen by accident. You have to choose it, you have to seek it, and you have to feed it to your mind every single day. Think about your physical body for a moment. If you ate fast food and junk every day, your health would deteriorate quickly. You'd feel sluggish, weak, and unmotivated. The same principle applies to your mind. If you're constantly feeding it with negative headlines, scrolling through social media arguments, or surrounding yourself with people who drag you down, don't be surprised when your thinking becomes cloudy, fearful, or hopeless. But when you intentionally nourish your mind with wisdom, inspiration, encouragement, and knowledge, it thrives. Your thoughts sharpen, your outlook brightens, and your confidence grows. That's why Jim Rohn used to say, stand guard at the door of your mind. He knew how easy it is to let destructive ideas sneak in unnoticed. Just one negative voice, repeated often enough, can derail your confidence and your vision. That's why you must build the discipline of feeding your mind with the right things daily. Read books that challenge you to grow. Listen to mentors who expand your perspective. Watch videos or listen to audio that lifts your spirit and sharpens your skills. Surround yourself with conversations that energize you rather than drain you. It doesn't have to be hours every day, even zhibu to sensors. Minutes of positive input daily can completely reshape the way you think. Think of it like watering a plant. A little water every day keeps the plant alive, growing, and vibrant. Skip watering long enough and it dries up. Your mind is the same. Consistent, small doses of positivity compound over time into a mindset that's unshakable. And here's something powerful: positive input not only changes how you feel, it changes how you act. When your mind is filled with empowering ideas, you naturally carry yourself differently. You make better decisions. You treat others better. You face challenges with resilience instead of panic. You start to notice opportunities where before you only saw obstacles. Your actions are always an extension of your thoughts. And when your thoughts are fueled by positivity, your actions align with growth and success. Be intentional. Don't just let random noise fill your head. Curate your input like you would curate the food you eat. If something makes you feel smaller, hopeless, or discouraged, limit it. If something inspires you, educates you, or strengthens your vision, make it part of your daily routine. Over time, this habit creates a mental environment where success becomes natural because your mind is consistently fed with ideas that move you forward. Here's the truth: your future depends on what you feed your mind today. So make the choice. Feed it with positivity. Feed it with wisdom. Feed it with growth. Do it daily. And you'll build the kind of mindset that not only survives the storms of life, but turns them into fuel for your greatest victories. Number 12, discipline your mind to stay calm under pressure. Discipline your mind to stay calm under pressure. This is one of the greatest marks of maturity, strength, and leadership. Anybody can smile when life is easy. Anybody can keep their cool when things go their way. But pressure reveals what you're really made of. When deadlines close in, when unexpected bills show up, when relationships get tense, when your plans fall apart, that's when your true discipline is tested. Most people panic under pressure. They let their emotions hijack their thinking. They complain, they react, they lash out, or they freeze. But here's what you need to understand. Panic never solves the problem. Fear never improves the situation. Emotional outbursts never bring clarity. In fact, they make things worse. When you lose your calm, you lose your ability to think. And when you can't think clearly, you can't solve the very problem in front of you. Staying calm under pressure is not about ignoring reality. It's about controlling your inner reality. The storm may rage outside, but you have the power to keep peace inside. That's where discipline comes in. Discipline says, I will not let circumstances control me. I will control how I respond. And that response makes all. Think about it like this. A pilot flying through turbulence doesn't scream or slam random buttons. He relies on his training, his discipline, his focus. He knows panic can crash the plane, but calm can land it safely. Life works the same way. You need to train your mind ahead of time to stay steady when pressure comes. Because pressure will come, no one escapes it. The difference is whether you let it break you or shape you. How do you build that discipline? Start small. Practice staying calm in little frustrations. The traffic jam, the rude comment, the technical glitch, use those moments as training. Take a breath, slow your mind, and remind yourself, this is not bigger than me. I can handle this. The more you practice in small situations, the more prepared you are when the big storms hit. Another key is preparation. Pressure feels overwhelming when you're unprepared. But when you discipline yourself to stay ready, pressure loses its power. For example, if you manage your finances wisely, an unexpected expense won't shake you. If you keep your body healthy, sudden stress won't crush you. If you keep learning and improving, unexpected challenges at work won't paralyze you. Preparation turns pressure into opportunity. And don't forget perspective. Most pressures that feel overwhelming in the moment often fade with time. The things you panicked about 5 years ago, do most of them still matter today? Probably not. But the calm decisions you made back then, those likely shaped your life for the better. Calmness under pressure doesn't just help you survive the moment, it builds a future you can be proud of. Here's the truth, calmness is a superpower. People are drawn to it. Opportunities open to those who can think clearly under stress. Leaders rise not because they avoid pressure, but because they can stay calm through it. Discipline your mind to be that person. Decide now that no matter what storm comes, you'll stay steady. You'll breathe, you'll think, you'll respond, not react. Because here's what I know, pressure doesn't break the person who has trained their mind. Pressure only polishes them. It brings out their strength, their clarity, and their courage. Discipline your mind, and pressure will no longer be something you fear. It will be something that proves your power. Number 13, visualize the person you want to become. Visualize the person you want to become. This is more than just imagining a dream. It's about creating a clear mental picture of the life you are committed to building. Your mind is incredibly powerful, and it responds to the images, thoughts, and beliefs you feed it daily. If you wander through life without a clear image of who you want to be, your actions will drift, your efforts will scatter, and your results will be inconsistent. But when you clearly see the person you want to become, everything changes. Your choices, your habits, and your decisions begin to align with that vision. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself a year from now, 5 years from now. Picture the way you carry yourself, the energy you bring into every room, the work you do, the relationships you nurture. Picture the discipline you maintain, the confidence you radiate, and the success you enjoy. When this vision becomes vivid, it acts like a blueprint for your actions. Your mind starts recognizing opportunities that match your goals. It starts filtering out distractions that don't serve your purpose. It begins guiding you naturally toward the habits, relationships, and environments that help you grow into that person. Visualize works because your mind doesn't always know the difference between what is imagined clearly and what is real. The brain reacts to vivid, consistent mental images as if they were actual experiences. That's why athletes, performers, and successful leaders use visualization daily. They see themselves achieving their goals, performing with excellence, and making the right decisions. So when the real moment comes, their mind is already trained to act with confidence, skill, and calm. You can do the same thing with your life. Start small by picturing one aspect of the person you want to become. See yourself disciplined in your habits, focused in your work, or consistent in your learning. Notice how it feels in your body, how your posture changes, how your energy flows. Feel the satisfaction of taking the actions necessary to become that person. The more real you make it in your mind, the easier it becomes to make it real in your life. Another important aspect of visualization is repetition. It's not enough to imagine it once and hope for results. You must see it, feel it, and affirm it every day. Make it part of your morning routine, your commute, or quiet moments throughout the day. The repeated practice strengthens your mental pathways, reinforcing the belief that becoming this person is possible and inevitable. Your thoughts, beliefs, and actions start to align naturally with your vision. Also builds when challenges arise, seeing yourself as the disciplined, capable, and resourceful person you aspire to be gives you strength to push through. It reminds you that setbacks are temporary, that failure is part of the learning process, and that your potential is bigger than any current obstacle. The clearer your vision, the less likely you are to be swayed by fear, doubt, or distraction. You respond from a place of confidence rather than panic. This practice isn't just about imagining success. It's about living in a mindset of responsibility and commitment. It's about taking ownership of who you are becoming. When you see yourself clearly, you hold yourself accountable to your own standards. You stop blaming circumstances or waiting for luck. You recognize that the person you see in your mind is created by your daily choices, your thoughts and your actions. To make visualization truly powerful, combine it with action. A vision without action remains a dream. When you see yourself as disciplined, start acting with discipline. When you see yourself learning consistently, pick up books, listen to mentors, and apply what you learn. When you see yourself overcoming challenges, take steps today that reflect that courage. Your vision sets the direction, and your actions build the path. Over time, this combination of clear visualization and consistent action transforms your thinking, your habits, and your life. You start noticing growth in areas that once felt stagnant. You feel a sense of control over your future. You feel empowered to make decisions that move you closer to the person you are becoming. Your mind becomes your ally instead of your obstacle. Your mind is a powerful tool, but only when it is disciplined, focused, and guided by a clear vision. Visualize trains your mind to act with purpose, respond with resilience, and stay committed to growth. When you practice this daily, your life begins to reflect the person you've imagined. The discipline of your thinking, combined with a clear vision, creates momentum that compounds over time. You will see yourself transform, not in theory, but in reality, because your mind has learned to act like the future you want is already happening. Number 14, reflect and journal to organize your mind. Reflecting and journaling to organize your mind is one of the most powerful ways to gain control over your thoughts, emotions, and actions. Most people go through life reacting to situations rather than intentionally directing their thinking. Thoughts pile up like clutter in a room, making it impossible to focus or make clear decisions. Writing things down allows you to take that mental clutter and put it into a tangible form, giving you clarity and control over your own mind. When you take the time to sit with a journal, you are giving yourself space to think deeply. You can examine your successes, your mistakes, your fears, and your ambitions. This is a private space where honesty matters, where no one judges you, and where every thought is an opportunity to understand yourself better. Writing thoughts down forces your mind to slow down. Ideas that once whirled chaotically through your head become concrete, visible, and easier to analyze. That clarity is the first step in learning to discipline your thinking. Reflection allows you to recognize when you write about your day, your reactions, and your decisions, you begin to see consistent habits and recurring thought patterns. Maybe you notice that you allow negative self-talk to dominate after stressful situations. Maybe you recognize that you spend too much energy on things that don't align with your long-term goals. By identifying these patterns, you gain the power to change them. Awareness is the foundation of discipline. Journaling is also a way to track progress. It is easy to forget how far you have come when you don't document it. Writing down accomplishments, lessons learned, and breakthroughs provides evidence that your efforts are making a difference. When challenges arise, you can look back and see past moments when you overcame obstacles, reinforcing your confidence and resilience. Reflection and journaling turn abstract growth into something concrete and measurable. The process of organizing your mind through writing also strengthens problem-solving skills. When you encounter challenges, putting them on paper helps you examine the situation from different angles. You can list possible solutions, consider consequences, and make more thoughtful decisions. This structured approach prevents impulsive reactions and allows your mind to act deliberately, which is the hallmark of disciplined thinking. Journaling also helps relieve mental stress. Thoughts that are unspoken can grow in intensity, creating anxiety, fear, or indecision. Writing them down transfers them from your mind onto paper, creating a sense of release. You can then evaluate which thoughts deserve your energy and which are distractions. By processing your emotions and ideas through writing, your mind becomes clearer, calmer, and more capable of focused thinking. Consistency is key. Reflection is not a one-time activity. To truly organize your mind, it must become a habit. Set aside time each day or each week to write about your thoughts, decisions, and experiences. Over time, this habit strengthens your ability to think clearly, prioritize effectively, and act intentionally. Your journal becomes a mirror that reflects your growth, a tool that sharpens your thinking, and a map that guides your next steps. In addition, journaling enhances self-awareness. The more you write, the better you understand your triggers, your tendencies, and your motivations. This understanding allows you to manage your emotions, adjust your thinking, and make conscious choices that support your goals. Self-awareness is a cornerstone of mental discipline, and journaling provides the structure to cultivate it every day. Ultimately, reflecting and journaling transforms your mind from a reactive space into a proactive, organized, and focused environment. It helps you evaluate what matters, filter out distractions, and make decisions that align with your long-term vision. The act of writing is an investment in your mental clarity and personal growth, and when practiced consistently, it shapes your mind into a disciplined, strategic, and unstoppable force. The ultimate goal of disciplining your thinking is to take control of your life. Your thoughts are the foundation for everything you do. Every choice, every action, every relationship, every achievement begins in the mind. If your thinking is scattered, negative, or undisciplined, it shows up in your results. But when your mind is organized, focused, and directed toward meaningful goals, it becomes a force that drives your life forward in ways you never thought possible. Discipline is not a one-time achievement. It is a daily practice. Every moment you choose where your attention goes, every thought you allow to grow, and every habit you reinforce shapes who you are becoming. Control what enters your mind. Train your thinking to focus on solutions. Direct your energy toward long-term goals. Replace doubt with belief. Practice gratitude. Reflect regularly and organize your thoughts. Each of these actions compounds over time, creating momentum that carries you past challenges, distractions, and uncertainty. When you commit to this mental discipline, you begin to notice the world differently. Problems that once felt overwhelming start to appear as manageable steps. Opportunities that seemed distant now become clear pathways. You start seeing options where, before you saw obstacles. Your confidence grows because you are no longer at the mercy of random thoughts, fears, or outside opinions. You are in charge of your mind, and when your mind is in charge, your life follows with purpose. Discipline in thinking also strengthens resilience. Life is full of setbacks, disappointments, and moments that test your patience. Without a disciplined mind, these challenges can knock you off course, eroding your motivation and self-belief. But when your thoughts are trained and focused, you respond with calm, clarity, and determination. You see failure as feedback, not as a final verdict. You recognize temporary setbacks as part of the learning process. Your mind becomes a steady anchor that holds you in place, no matter how rough the waters may be. Your mind also determines the quality of your decisions. Each day, the choices you make either move you closer to your goals or further away from them. When you discipline your thinking, you give yourself the ability to make decisions with purpose rather than habit. You act intentionally, not impulsively. You become proactive rather than reactive. And over time, these small, deliberate choices accumulate into massive results. The life you want, the success you seek, and the person you aspire to become all begin with your mind. Thinking is not a passive process. It is an active, creative, and disciplined effort. The more intentional you are about the thoughts you allow, the stronger your focus, and the more aligned your actions will be. This is the power of disciplined thinking. It gives you control over your present and shapes the future you are creating. Take these principles seriously. Make the commitment to guard your mind, structure your thoughts, and direct your energy toward growth and improvement every day. The results may not come instantly, but they will come, and when they do, you will realize the profound impact that disciplined thinking has on every area of your life. Your mind is the most valuable tool you possess. Treat it with respect, feed it with purpose, and organize it with discipline. When your thinking is disciplined, your actions will be decisive, your goals will be within reach, and your life will move forward with clarity and power. Success begins in the mind, and the person who masters their thinking masters their life. Your mind is the control center of your life. Every action you take, every decision you make, and every result you achieve begins with the way you think. If you want to change your life, it starts with changing your thoughts. Discipline your thinking, and you take control of your future. You stop letting outside circumstances, random distractions, and fleeting emotions dictate your path. Instead, you decide where your mind goes, what it focuses on, and how it responds to every challenge. Life will always throw difficulties in your way. People will doubt you, situations will test you, and setbacks will appear. But a disciplined mind doesn't crumble. A disciplined mind doesn't panic. A disciplined mind sees clearly, chooses wisely, and moves forward with confidence. The stronger you become in controlling your thoughts, the stronger you become in creating your reality. Success, happiness, and fulfillment are not accidents. They are the results of intentional thinking, deliberate focus, and consistent effort. When you take responsibility for your mind, you take responsibility for your life. You start building habits that strengthen your focus, clarify your goals, and guide your actions. You start noticing opportunities that others overlook because your mind is tuned to see what matters most. Remember, nothing changes until your thinking changes. Discipline is not a one-time effort. It is a lifestyle. Each day, choose thoughts that empower you. Each day, filter out negativity and doubt. Each day, direct your mind towards solutions, growth, and long-term success. The more consistent you are, the more automatic this discipline becomes, and the more unstoppable you will be in every area of your life. Take ownership of your mind today. Protect it, nurture it, and train it to work for you instead of against you. The life you dream of is waiting on the other side of disciplined thinking. The person you want to become starts with the choices you make in your mind every single day. Master your thinking, and you will master your life. Your mind is your most powerful tool. Use it wisely, use it deliberately, and use it consistently. Everything you desire is within reach. The moment you decide to control your thoughts, focus your energy, and take action with purpose, this is the foundation for a life of success, fulfillment, and unstoppable growth.